ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So we have been hearing from the first canto. Last time we were discussing about Sutta Goswami. He, while responding to the messages in Naimisharanya, explained the protection of Parikshit. He is going to discuss further about his birth in the future chapters of this canto. But in that connection, he mentioned about how the Pandavas, they lost their 5 sleeping sons who were killed by Ashwatthama. And then when Arjuna, he caught Ashwatthama, brought him to the camp, and finally he was chastised and he was driven out of the camp, being humiliated. So that was the punishment given to him, because Lord says, Brahma Bandhu Nahantabhya Atatayi Padharana. A wretched descendant of a twice born Nahantabhya. But at the same time, Atatayi Padharana. If somebody who is an aggressor must be killed. So therefore, simultaneously by depriving the wealth, driving out of his home, and punishing him in that way, Ashwatthama was as good as killed, and he also was saved. So in that way, then finally, Pandavas, they are going to do the final ritual for the departed soul. Those who left their body in the Kurukshetra battle, now the Pandavas, along with Draupadi and Kunti, they're going to perform the final ritual for them. So in the chapter 8, in the beginning, Sridhar Swami writes, Ashtame Kupita Drona Rastra Raksha Parishchita Sri Krishnena Stuti Kuntya Rajna Shokascha Kirtaye. In this chapter 8, 3 things are described. First of all, how Maharaj Parikshit was saved by the Brahmastra weapon, attack of the Brahmastra weapon by Ashwatthama. Then the second point, that Kunti's prayers to Krishna, upon seeing the way how Krishna protected the Pandavas and the son in the womb of Uttara, she started offering her prayers to Krishna. And then towards the end of this chapter, we will see lamentation of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Are being discussed in chapter 8. So in the beginning, Srila Sutta Goswami, he says, Athate samparetanang svanamudapamichhatam datum sakrishna gangayam puraskritya jayustriya. Sutta Goswami said, thereafter, the Pandavas, desiring to deliver water to the dead relatives who had desired it. Went to the Ganges with Draupadi, the ladies walked in front. As we know, many of the Pandavas, soldiers, and direct relative of the Pandavas had left their body. So now they have to perform the final ritual. And here it is said that those who left their body in the battle, they desired water. So in that this confirmed that those who leave their body, then family members, they perform the Sadha ceremony, the Tarpana ceremony, just to ensure that the departed souls are satisfied. So in that way, when the Tarpana is done or the Shraddha is performed by chanting different mantras that are recommended in the Veda, those who are promoted to the Pitriloka, or even those who are in the lower species of life suffering, they can either get their sustenance or get delivered. So this is the subtle way how the Vedic mantra helps the departed soul. Just like those who are in the Pitriloka, they get their food, shelter, everything when we are offering these oblations in form of offering pinda or water. And those who are maybe in the lower species of life suffering, by offering pinda to them and floating it into the Ganges. Ganges is flowing in the three worlds, so it can carry wherever they are. So in that way, they can also get delivered. So this is a process. So Pandavas also perform these rituals. And in this connection, one point we need to remember that here Srila Sridhar Swami says, Tasmin Karye Stri Purasaratva Vidhanat. In such a procession, like now everybody in the family, they are going to a sacred river to perform the ritual. So in this procession, ladies walk in front because this is the rule. Anyway, this is what it is mentioned here. And upon arriving in the Ganga, they first took bath and then they offered tarpana. Then they sufficiently lamented over the dead bodies and then again took bath and then came back. So that's what it is said. Having lamented over them and sufficiently offered Ganges water, they bathed in the Ganges, whose water is sanctified due to being mixed with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. Teniniyo dakam sarve vilapya cha vrishampuna apluta haripadabja raja puta sarijjale. The quality of Ganges water is being described by Sutta Goswami here, that haripadabja raja puta sarijjale. So the Ganges water is purified because of carrying the dust from the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. As you know, Brahma, he washed the lotus feet of the Lord. So in that way, the water is carrying the dust, or since it is flowing from the lotus feet of Vishnu, therefore Ganga's name is Vishnupadi, and she is carrying the dust from the Lord's lotus feet. So then, Tatrasinam Kurupatim Dhutarashtam Sahanujam Gandharim Putra Sokartam Pitham Krishnam Chamadhava. There sat the king of the Kurus, Maharaj Yudhishthir, along with his younger brothers and Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, Kunti, and Draupadi, all overwhelmed with grief. Lord Krishna was also there. So different members came and participated in this procession, in these final rites. And here, especially for Pritha, Gandhari, and Draupadi, it have been the Visheshana, the adjective have been given Putra Sokarta, Trishrinam Visheshanam. So this Putra Sokarta, who were grief, who were overwhelmed with grief. Gandhari, because as we know, Gandhari had lost 100 sons, and Kunti Maharani, she had lost her son Karna, and also Abhimanyu, who was the grandson. So in that way, then Krishna, Draupadi, she had also lost her 5 sleeping sons. So they were all overwhelmed with grief, and Krishna also joined them. Then finally, they came back home, and then Sutta Goswami narrates, Santaya Masa Munivi Hatabandhun Sucharpitan Bhuteshu Kalasya Gatim Darsayan Apatikriyam. So all these great rishis, they began to pacify them. And Krishna also was engaged in this work of pacifying. But they were very much affected. And finally, Lord Krishna, Sutta Goswami is very quickly trying to finish the description. That's why he is going very quick. Now he's saying that after that, then Lord Krishna, he helped Maharaj Yudhishthira to perform Ashwamedha Yajna, Sadhaitva Jata Shastru Swamrajyam Titavaritam Ghataitva Swarajyam Kathasparsakatayusha. So he's saying that these Duryodhan and his assistants, his party, they have mishandled the hair of Draupadi. As we know, Dushasana, the brother of Duryodhan, who particularly had grabbed the hair of Draupadi and brought her to the arena. As we know, at that time, Draupadi, she had already decorated her hair, who was supposed to become the queen. And at that situation, when Dushasana, he grabbed her by her hair and brought her to the assembly and humiliated her. At that time, that Kachasparsakstayusha, because they had roughly handled the hair of Draupadi, immediately all who were present there, their lifespan was reduced. And Srila Prabhupada, commenting in his purport, he says, the protection of cows maintains the most miraculous form of food. Sorry, before that, he's saying protection, the protection of women maintains the chastity of society, by which we can get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. That means here the protection of the woman is an integral part of the society, human society is being described. And the protection is given in different levels, starting with the father, then husband, and a qualified son. They need to give protection to the woman. And here in this particular connection, when Draupadi was rendered helpless in the Kuru assembly, that was the sign of the downfall of the entire Kuru dynasty. And so Prabhupada is saying that when this protection is not given to the cow, Brahminical culture and women, that leads to the downfall of the human civilization. You see, to insult a chaste woman means to bring about disaster in the duration of life. Dushasan's brother Duryodhan insulted Draupadi, an ideal chaste lady, and therefore the miscreants died untimely. These are some of the stringent laws of the Lord mentioned above. So that means when people they read Bhagavatam, they need to understand this message of Srimad Bhagavatam very clearly, so that human society can attain peace, prosperity, and tranquility. So after that, Lord Krishna, he helped Maharaj Yudhishthira to perform 3 horse sacrifices. Even though the sacrifice of horse sacrifice is not yet completed, not yet performed, still Sutta Goswami, he is narrating the story, what is going to happen in future. Jajayitva swamedhaistam tribhi uttama kalpakahi tadyasa pavanam dikshu satamanyu vivatanot. So when Lord Krishna helped Maharaj to perform 3 horse sacrifices, this is how he made the fame of Maharaj Yudhishthira glorious like that of the Indra. Indra, who had performed 100 such sacrifices. That means in this connection we can understand the devotees of the Lord, they can be glorious as the demigods in the heavenly planets by the mercy of the Lord. So after completing the horse sacrifice, then Lord Krishna, he decides to go back to Dwaraka, because as you know, he came from Dwaraka and stayed in Hastinapur for many months. And after the war is completed, and now Maharaj Yudhishthira is enthroned in this throne of Hastinapur. So now Krishna is thinking, this is the time I can go back. That's why text number 3. Amantriya Panduputrangscha Saine Uddhava Samyutah Dvaipayanadivirviprahi Pujitai Pratipujitai. Bidding farewell to the sons of Pandus, Amantriya Panduputrangscha. Then Krishna prepared for his departure. Okay, and who were there? Saine Uddhava Samyuta. Krishna is always accompanied by Satyaki and Uddhava. And Dvaipayana Divir Viprai Pujite Pratipujite. Now Krishna is going to leave. So all these great sages, they came and they offer their homage unto Krishna. And Krishna also reciprocated with them. So in that way, now Krishna is going to leave. So at that time, what happened? Gantum kritamati brahman dvarakam ratamastita upalebhe vidhavanti muttaram bhayavyuharam. When Krishna was just about to leave, he was already seated in the chariot. He was just about to leave. Gantum pratamati brahman dvarakam, towards Dwaraka. He was already mounted on the chariot. Upalebhe vidhavanti uttaram bhayavyuharam. Uttara, he came running towards Krishna. Uttara came running towards Krishna for protection. You see, even though they were Pandavas, but Uttara knew Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He can give shelter and protection. Therefore, she directly approached to Krishna. Prabhupada writes All the members of the family of the Pandavas are completely dependent on the protection of the Lord, and therefore the Lord protected all of them in all circumstances. The Lord protects everyone, but one who depends completely upon Him is especially looked after by the Lord. The father is more attentive to the little son who is exclusively dependent on the father. Sometimes people, those who are not devotee of Krishna, they find fault with Krishna. They say Krishna is partial. Krishna is partial to his devotees. Yes, Krishna is partial to his devotees. That is good, no? When Krishna protects his devotees, he not only is protecting his devotees, through protecting his devotees, he is giving shelter to the entire humanity. Protection of the sadhu is meant for uh, protecting the entire human civilization. So, in that way, Krishna, by protecting his devotees, he is actually doing a favor to the entire civilization. So anyway, so Uttara, she came hurrying towards Krishna in fear, and then she started speaking. Uttara vacha pahi pahi mahajogin deva deva jagatpate nanyam tvadabhayam pasye yatra mrityo parasparam. What did she say? Pahi pahi mahajogin deva deva jagatpate. He is telling Krishna Jagatpate Mahajogi. Oh Lord of Lord, you are the Lord of the universe. You are the greatest of mystics. Please protect me, for there is no one else who can save me from the clutches of death in this world of duality. Jatra Mrityu Parasparam. This is a very important point to understand in this connection. In this world, one living entity is causing pain to other living entity. One living entity is eaten by another living entity. So there is only fear created in this world. One is causing death to another one. So in that way, Jatra Mrityu Parasparam. But Krishna, Uttara is saying, Nanyam Tod Abhayam Pasya. Actually, you are the only one who is beyond this nature, Prakriti, and you are fearless. Otherwise, everybody is afraid of someone. That's why I am seeking protection from you, my dear Lord. So, devotees of Krishna, they always seek shelter in the lotus feet of Krishna, because they understand Krishna is the only protector, shelter giver. So that same thing is done by Uttara here. And then when Uttara is coming to Krishna, if somebody says, Uttara, your husband is no more, and why are you worried about your protection? Okay, you have to die. Why don't you just, live like this? But no, Uttara is not worried about her personal protection. She is more concerned about the baby who is in her womb. That's why she is saying, Abhi dravati mam isa sarastapta yasho vibhu. Oh Lord, Isha, O Vibhu, great one. There is a fiery iron arrow approaching me. So what do you want? The Krishna says, Kamam dahatumam natha. Let it burn me as much as it wants. But mame garbho nipatyata. it should not burn my embryo. So in that way, Uttara is more concerned about saving the child in the womb. That's why Prabhupada is saying, the mother of a child has a great responsibility in giving all protection to the child. And therefore, Uttara was not ashamed to express this frankly before Lord Krishna. So, every mother should take this responsibility to protect their child even from the womb. In Vedic civilization, a mother gives protection to the child even before she starts conceiving the baby. How does she do that? By performing the sanskar, Garbhodhan sanskar, she attracts a pure soul into her home who will be born with all good qualities, divine qualities. So in that way, the protection of the baby even is given even before they start conceiving the baby. And then what to speak of when baby is already conceived? Definitely, everybody, they need to protect the baby in the womb. And therefore, Uttara is saying that, Kamam dahatumam nath, let it burn me. Personally, I don't bother. I don't worry about that part. But my baby should be protected. Baby should be protected. Shuto vacha upadharya vachastasya bhagavan bhaktavatsala. Bhagavan is bhaktavatsala. He is dear to his devotee. He always gives protection to his devotee. That's why he is bhaktavatsala. Upadharya vachastasya. Upon hearing the words of Uttara, apandavamidam kartum draune rastra abudhyata. Lord could immediately understood that this is the work of the son of Dronacharya, Ashwatthama. He wanted to wipe out the last embryo in the Kuru dynasty. So he wanted to destroy this baby in her mother's womb. In his mother's womb. So Lord could immediately understood this. And not only that, what happened? Tahi Vartha Munisashta Pandava Panchasayakan Atma Nohi Mukhan Diptan Alakhanyas Stran Upadadu. So this Brahmastra weapon, which was released by Ashwatthama, it had many faces. That means it can hit the target, as many targets as is desired by the one who is applying the weapon. So in this connection, we can see the Brahmastra released by Ashwatthama, one head was targeting the womb of Uttara, and another 5 were targeting the Pandavas who were standing near Krishna at that time. Just imagine, one is going to Uttara, Uttara is now coming, running towards Krishna, and 5 more are also coming towards Pandavas. So Krishna, he could understood that this is the work of Ashwatthama. And our Acharya, they explain the subtlety of this Brahmastra weapon is such that whoever is targeted, it is going to hit that target. It is not going to harm anybody else. And it can penetrate anywhere when the target is not ascertained and it is released. It is going to hit the target only. This is the interesting characteristic. Prabhupada explains that modern days people, they apply atomic bomb, but it kills the people without discrimination. Many innocent people, they are killed. But in Brahmastra weapon, it is going to hit only the target. Okay. And when Pandavas, they saw this weapon, Brahmastra weapon is coming towards them. There's another also point to take a note on in this connection. Like Pandavas only could see this Brahmastra weapon, not that other people could see. This is a very interesting point. Because in those days, these weapons and application was science was very subtle. And those who knew, they could apply it and the target would see it. So when Pandavas, they saw this fiery weapon approaching toward them, they immediately started to get ready to fight against the weapon. But Krishna understood. What did he understood? Vyasanam vikhyata tesam ananya vishyapanam. It's a very important point. Vyasanam vikhyata tesam. Duspariharam vyasanam. So, Lord Krishna could understood that this Brahmastra weapon cannot be counteracted by any other weapon other than Brahmastra. Okay. And Krishna, as we have heard before, he is Bhakta Vatsal. He always protects his devotees. And now here for the Pandavas, it has been said that Ananya Vishyatmana. Pandavas, they didn't have anyone in their life except Krishna. In any condition, they were always remembering Krishna. That was it. Ananya Vishyatmanam. When Krishna saw his dear devotees are in trouble, then Sudarsanena Shastrena Swanam Raksham Vidadvihu. The great Lord, he protected his dear devotees by his own Sudarshan weapon. This is a very interesting point. Sometimes when we are in Krishna consciousness, we are also faced with trouble, and we also don't know what trouble is going to come to us, right? And here you see, now Krishna, he's protecting his devotee. So then this lesson remains for us is that as a devotee of Lord Krishna, instead of going to the astrologer, trying to find some other solution for our future, dangers that may come upon us, instead of going to take such remedial measures, we should just simply become devotee of Lord Krishna. We need to increase our devotion to Krishna. Of course, this realization is not very quickly attained by a devotee. As we do sadhana and we always pray to Krishna and we face with different hurdles in our life and we learn the lesson from different hurdles and then we go back again and to pray to Krishna, gradually that mood of surrender intensifies. As we are discussing before, this surrender will be intensified to the degree we are freed from our false ego, or you can say pride. Okay, so in that way, Pandavas, they were completely dependent on Krishna. So Lord Krishna, he knew that I need to protect them. Prabhupada is saying, knowing that this Brahmastra weapon cannot be counteracted with anything else and it is never going to miss the target. So in Krishna, he understood all these things. He at once took up his personal weapon, Sudarshan, to protect his devotees. Prabhupada is saying, he behaves according to the quality or degree of devotional service rendered by the devotee. Je Jathamam Prapadyanam Tantra, right? To the degree one is surrendered to Krishna, to that degree he is going to protect. uh, or even in this connection, Krishna protects by helping his devotees coming near him. Therefore, sometimes those who are uh, on the path of purification, they are becoming more and more pure. Krishna puts them into hard tests. So they sometimes face very, very high level difficulty. So here you can see Pandavas they don't know anybody but Krishna only. And they are faced with such a trouble that that weapon cannot be counteracted with any other weapon. You can imagine that way. Anyway, so Krishna, he is a Bhaktavatsal, he loves his devotees. Thus, he didn't bother about breaking his vow to take up the weapon in order to protect the Pandavas. Then, Srila Goswami is saying, Antastha sarvabhutanam atma yogeshwara harihi. Here, Krishna have been described as Atma and Sarvabhutanam Atma and Yogeshwara. That means when we say Sarvabhutanam Atma, as we know, he is residing in the heart of every living entity as super soul. That is one understanding about Krishna. Then the other understanding is Yogeshwara. Yogeshwara means just like yogis who have mystic powers, they can reach anywhere at any time, immediately. That is Yogeshwara. So that is Krishna. That means the Sutta Goswami's intention is that Krishna is already there in the heart of uh, Uttara. So it is not going to take much time for him to give protection to the devil. Therefore, he is saying, Antastha Sarvabhutanam Atma Yogeshwara Hari Swamaya Banadgarbham Vairakya Kurutantave. To save the last embryo in the Uttara's womb, Krishna, by his personal energy, says Swamaya, by his energy, he covered the embryo. He was already there, so it is not going to take much time. Okay? And in that way, he protected Pandavas and also the boy who was in the womb of Mother Uttara. Jadyapyastram brahma shiras tomogham cha pratikriyam. Even though the Brahmastra weapon is very difficult to be counteracted, but Vaishnavam tejasadya samasamyad bhrugudbha. When it was confronted by Sudarshan Chakra, it was neutralized. Okay, so there was no problem. So everybody were protected. Mamangstha Hietadascharjam Sarvascharya Mayachute Jaidam Maya Devya Sujatya Vatihantaja. So upon hearing this, somebody should not feel surprised. What is this? Lord Krishna, who is creating, maintaining, and he is also the cause of the destruction of this world. It is not very difficult for him that he could protect his devotees in this way. The activities of the Lord are always inconceivable to the tiny brain of the living entities. Nothing is impossible for the Supreme Lord, but all his actions are wonderful for us, and thus is always beyond the range of our inconceivable limits. So Then Sutta Goswami continues, Brahma Tejo Vinirmuktair Atmajai Saha Krishnaya Prayanabhimukham Krishnam Idam Aha Prithasati. Brahma Tejo Vinirmuktair Atmajai Saha Krishnaya. Kunti, she personally witnessed how her sons were protected. And then Draupadi was also there. She could also see everything what just has happened. Prayanabhi Mukham Krishna Idam Mahaprithasam. You can imagine, you see, somebody is going to be killed just now. And in front of your eyes, he was protected. He was rescued. The person who rescued, then how much love, how much deep appreciation one would have. So now, Kunti Maharani, when she saw this, she could not control herself. She was overwhelmed with loving emotions. And with these agitated emotions, she started offering prayers to Krishna. Therefore, in the beginning, Kunti Maharani, she says, Namasye. I offer my obeisances unto you. Namasye. When Kunti Maharani says, I offer obeisances unto Krishna, unto you, then Krishna may say, my dear auntie, you know I am junior to you. Why do you do that? You should not offer obeisances to me. Right? Kunti Maharani says, no, I know who you are. You may be my nephew, but you are Adi Purusha, Purusham Adyam. Namasye Purusham Adyam Tadyam Ishwaram Prakriti Param. I am offering obeisances to Adi Purusha. And you are the original personality. And if Krishna says, what is that? Or somebody asks, what is that? Prakriti Param. Means you are also the transcendental personality. Means you are controller of Prakriti. You are not within Prakriti. You don't belong to Prakriti. You are transcendental and you are controller of Prakriti. Srila Swami says, Prakriti api nyantaram. Therefore, alaksham sarvabhutanam antarbahir avasthitam. And he is situated within and without, inside and outside of all living entities. Still, he remains invisible, alaksham. Queen Kunti affirms that the Lord, although both within and without all living beings, is still inconceivable. The Lord is, so to speak, a puzzle for the common man. Queen Kunti experienced personally that Lord Krishna was present before her, yet he entered within the womb of Uttara to save her embryo from the attack of Ashwatthama's Brahmastra. Kunti herself was puzzled about whether Sri Krishna is all-pervasive or localized. In fact, he is both, but he reserved the right of not being exposed to persons who are not surrendered souls. This checking curtain is called the Maya energy of the Supreme Lord, and it controls the limited vision of the rebellious soul. So, when it is said that Krishna is already within and without, then why everybody cannot see him? Now, those who are rebellious, they cannot realize this, they cannot see it. Therefore, in the next verse, Kunti says, Maya Javanika Channam Agyadhokshajamavyam Na Lakshase Mudha Nato Natya Dharo Yatha. She is giving an analogy. We all have the experience that when we go to watch a drama, we may know our friend, he is acting in the drama. When he appears on the stage, dressing like a king or maybe like a minister, we fail to recognize our friend. Oh, is he our friend? We don't recognize him. So therefore it says, Maya Javanika Channam. Lord reserves the right not to reveal himself to non-devotees, to the demons. Srila Jiva Goswami, he is saying that alakhyatve hetum maya ityadi padadvayam tatra prathamam anadhikarina prati prakatya avasare api. That means he's saying those who are unqualified, even though Lord is present before them, they cannot see him, because we have seen from Bhagavad Gita, Apajananti Mamudha Manusim Tanvasita. Those who are demoniac, theistic in nature, they deride Krishna, even though he is present before them. So this is one type of people. They cannot see, because they are also covered by the Maya. And the second type is Ditiyam Anyada Swarupata Eva Indriya Jnanatitatvat Sarvatra Sthitatpyapi. Krishna cannot be experienced by our sensual knowledge. Like we have got 5 working senses and 5 knowledge acquiring senses. The knowledge what we gain through our senses, that remains insufficient to know Krishna. So that means simply by our own endeavor, we will not be able to understand Krishna. Or you can say, Krishna can be understood only through his mercy. So therefore, Kunti Maharani is saying, Maya Javanika Channam Agnya. Agnya, actually, Mudha Drisha. Dehabhimanina Pumsa no Lakshase. Those who have accepted their body as the self, who identify with their body. That means their consciousness cannot go beyond the comfort of this body. So whatever knowledge they get, that is born of the senses, experience of the senses. And that cannot help one to understand Krishna. Therefore, she is saying, no lakshasya nato natya dharojatha. And Prabhupada is giving a lot of examples from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Krishna was just a small child. He killed Putana, who approached Krishna smearing poison on her breast. And also Krishna, he lifted Govardhan hill. We know this from his past time. Krishna, he swallowed forest fire. He rescued Nanda Maharaj. All these Herculean tasks was accomplished by Krishna. But those who are atheists, the demons, even though there are descriptions about Krishna's activities in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, but these people, they cannot understand it. That's why no lakshase mudadrisha. There are another class of people like scientists. who are very much dependent on their personal endeavor, knowledge of their senses. And they cannot also know Krishna, right? So this is a proven fact we can see in the modern world. There are so many scientists who are non-believers and they don't see Krishna, they don't realize Krishna. So in that way, our sensual knowledge remains insufficient, and also those who are unqualified, like demons who deride Krishna when he descends in the human form, they cannot also see him. Hmm? Uh, so Kunti Maharani continues further. She says that तथा परमहंसानां मुनीनां अमलात्मनां भक्ति योग विधानार्थं कथं पश्येमहि स्त्रियः तथा परमहंसानां मुनीनां अमलात्मनां. Srila Sridhar Swami, he writes, he says, himself, Paramahamsanam Atma Natma Vivekina. There are some spiritual practitioners who are engaged in the process of mental concoction, and they simply try to deliberate on what is spirit and what is matter. Okay, Atma and Anatma. What is Atma and what is spirit and what is matter, you can say like that. Okay. And then there are others, Muninam, Manvasilanam api, Tapascha Amalatmanam, those who are Munis, and by dint of their practice, they have become purified, but that means raga dinam api nibritya raga dinam api. Mean those who have been purified by dint of their meditation, they don't have any attraction for any objects of this material world. That is Amalatma, purified souls. Okay. Even these people, they cannot see Krishna in his own glories. Why? Only when Krishna allows them to understand him by giving them the opportunity through devotional service, then only they can understand. Or another explanation is, those who are Paramahamsas, those who are Atmaramas, those who don't have anything to do with this material world, even for them, Krishna, he attracts them by his sweet nectarian pastimes, right? That means, as Upanishad says, Krishna is understood by those whom he chooses. Without Krishna revealing himself to these devotees, they cannot understand him. They cannot understand him. Therefore, Kunti Maharani is saying, how then can we women know you perfectly? Here the point is, Kunti Maharani is saying that you can be known only through undivided devotional service. Krishna will reveal himself to his devotees by watching their sincerity. He knows the sincerity of purpose. Who? Krishna. He knows our sincerity of purpose. So when we sincerely approach him, then he will reveal himself to us. Then he says, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah. So tat evam bhutas tvam oho asmakam itham सुखद तापहारी समृद्ध असि तत्तत् स्मृत्वा नमस्कुरु. Srila Jiva Goswami says, now Kunti Maharani is remembering how Krishna had been protecting them from different dangers. Means whenever there was trouble for them, Krishna actually protected them. And now he has installed Yudhishthira Maharaj in the throne of Hastinapur also. So Dukkha Haritva and Sukhada and Tapaharita. He gives them what they need. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, no? Yoga Kshemam Bhavanya. He gives what the devotees lack and he protects what they have. So in that way, Kunti Maharani is remembering in different occasions how Krishna has helped them. And Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, he gives very wonderful commentary to this verse. I think we should look at that because it is very, very wonderfully explained by him. So he is saying, Ataha Sarab Krishnaya. When Kunti Maharani says, Krishnaya, I offer obeisances unto Krishna. What is your intention? Oh, Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Or amongst all incarnations, he is the chief. That means he is the source. Okay? Tatrapi swam yam stvam swikarosi tesu api premavatsu madhye premavatsu dhanyesu madhye madbhrata ati dhanya. So Kunti Maharani is saying, those who surrender unto you, they come to you, they all are glorious because of having their love towards you. But amongst those people who come to you with love, my brother is glorious, even more glorious. Why? Your brother is more glorious. Just they pite tyaha vasudevaya. Because you have accepted him as your father. So therefore, out of all these people who come with loving sentiment to serve you, my brother Vasudeva, who you have accepted as your father, is more glorious. Therefore, she is saying Vasudevaya. You see, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is analyzing every word. Why she is saying Krishna? Because Krishna is source of our incarnation. Why she is saying Vasudeva? Then why she is saying Devaki? Now she is again saying Tatopi adhika premavati Devaki. Devaki has more love for you than Vasudeva. Dhanya ja te mata itya. Because she is your mother. Fathers don't get offended. Okay? Mothers have more love towards the baby than fathers do. Yeah, we have seen that in practical life experience, right? Father is very busy with other work. Sometimes he just spend some time with the baby. But mother, they love the baby because baby is always with the mother. And here she is saying, Devaki Nandayasi Tadiya Garbhe Sthitva Tam Sarvato Opi Samruddhim Ato Samruddhimatim Karosityartha. That means she is saying that you appeared in the womb of Devaki. In that way, you awarded her the best fortune. Toto api adhika premavan Nanda dhanya iti aha. Now, Nanda Maharaj is more glorious than even Devaki. Nanda Gopasya Kumaraya. When Kunti Maharani is saying Nanda Gopa Kumaraya, her goal is Kumara Leela Madhurjam Soeva Ashradaya Masa Iti Bhava. The childhood pastimes was released by Nanda Maharaj. So you see, Krishna was born in the prison house of Kamsa. He came in the womb of Devaki. So in that way, Devaki is glorious. But the childhood pastime of Krishna was not released by neither Vasudev nor Devaki, Nanda Maharaj. Right? Therefore, he's saying, Nanda Gopa Dhanya. Tatopi Premavati Dhanya Jashoda iti Agrima Sloke Bhakhyate. Even Jashoda is more glorious than Nanda, which will be discussed in the future verses. You will see why Jashoda is more glorious. Who tied Damodara? Mother Jashoda, right? So in that way, Krishna, he agreed to be bound by Mother Jashoda. That is how her Vatsalya Prem is highly glorified in this Damodara pastime. So she is the topmost in this connection. And then when she is saying, Govindaya Namo Namaha, Komara Leela Topi Brajasthasya Tava Kaishoro Leela Madhurjam Adhikam Ityah Govindaya. While Krishna was in Braja, Vrindavan, his Kaishoro Leela is more glorious than Komar. Because we can see after Krishna, actually after this Govardhan pastime, right? Indra, he came with Surabhi cow and he did Abhishek to Krishna. That's how his name became Govinda. You might have been to the Govinda Kund, right? And in this connection, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, Govindati iti Govinda. Means he gives pleasure to the cows and the senses of his devotees. You can see when Krishna reached Kaishoro stage, he was the center of attraction for everybody, especially the gopis and Srimati Radharani. Anyway, so therefore, Sri Kunti Maharani, she is saying, Nanda Gopa Govindaya Namo Namaha. Prabhupada writes, Queen Kunti specifically adores the incarnation or descent of Lord Krishna above all other incarnations, because in this particular incarnation, he is more approachable. In the Rama incarnation, he remained a king's son from his very childhood. But in the incarnation of Krishna, although he was the son of a king, he at once left the shelter of his real father and mother, King Vasudev and Queen Devaki, just after his appearance and went to the lap of Yashodamai to play the part of an ordinary cowherd boy in the blessed Brajabhumi, which is very satisfying because of his childhood pastimes. Therefore, Lord Krishna is more merciful than Lord Ram. Anyway, so Krishna, in this way, he gave the good fortune to the devotees in Braja. While remembering their good fortune, Kunti Maharani, she is offering her prayers to Krishna that how Krishna, he takes care of his devotees in different levels. And then in the next class, we'll continue from text number 22. Maybe 22 also we can cover today. Okay. Namaha Pankaja Nabhaya, Namaha Pankaja Maline, Namaha Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangre. So here, Kunti Maharani, she is again offering obeisances to Krishna by addressing him, Namo Pankaja Nabhaya. Jiva Goswami says, Pankaja Karam Bhagavan Lakshanam Nabhu Jasya. Krishna's navel resembles that of a lotus from where the lotus sprout and Brahma was born, right? So that is the sign of the god. As you see in the description about Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, from the navel of Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, a lotus sprung, and on top of the lotus, Brahma was created. So in that way, he is referred here as the even origin of the Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. Namaha Pankaja Malini. Prabhupada explains that Krishna, he wears lotus garland in the temple. And the atmosphere is so vibrant and so soothing that anyone who comes to take darshan of the Lord, they also automatically become peaceful and satisfied. So here when Kunti Maharani is saying, Namah Pankaja Netraya, Namah Pankajangre, his lotus eyes, lotus foot. So when Kunti Maharani is speaking about the lotus that resembles different limbs of the body of Krishna, her mood is that whenever I see you, whether your eye, your face, your navel, anywhere I see, I am completely satisfied. It gives me soothing feeling. So that is the sign of lotus. Therefore, when we go to the temple and we get darshan of Krishna, the devotee should feel the same. Therefore, Kunti Maharani is simply offering her obeisances to Krishna by addressing Pankajanabhaya, Pankajamaline, Pankajanetraya, and Pankajangrai. And Prabhupada is saying, she did not start from the lotus feet of Krishna. She started from his navel, because she didn't want to put Krishna into upward position. Because Kunti Maharani is the aunt of Krishna. So if Kunti Maharani starts looking at Krishna from his lotus feet, Krishna may not like it. Therefore, she started with navel. But for us, the devotees of Lord Krishna, when we go to the temple, the process or the way how we should see the Lord, we take darshan of the Lord is, we start from the lotus feet of the Lord. Then we gradually go up to his beautiful face. So in that way, this is also a lesson for us. Kunti Maharani is teaching, Prabhupada is teaching us in this connection. So she has offered obeisances to Krishna by addressing him like, one whose abdomen is marked with the depression of the lotus, who is always decorated with the lotus garland, whose glance is so cool as the lotus. So in that way, she offered her obeisances to Krishna. And then from next verse, she is going to speak more about her realization how Krishna took care of them in different situations. So we'll hear about that in the next class from text number 23. So we can take some questions and comments maybe. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Any question or comment, my dear devotees? Silas Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Zogasha Prabhupada. Thank you for a wonderful class again. I have a question related to some texts we read in the previous session and related to here, and a slightly unrelated question, but related to the general topics. The first question is, how do we understand the children of the Pandavas to be? Were they considered to be pure devotees? And if so, why was it that Krishna didn't extend the protection he grants to the Pandavas, to the children of the Pandavas?
See, Silas Prabhu, that is, it's in a Je Jathamam Prapadyante Tam Sthaya Bhajamyam. There's a deep purport to this verse actually. How Krishna takes care of his devotee is very, very interesting to see it. Krishna could do anything. You know, they are the sons of Pandavas. Krishna could definitely protect them. But then the question is, why Krishna did not protect them? See, this is a past time happening. In the past, this is a Leela. In the Leela, Krishna did not protect because he has to teach us something. If he is going to protect them, then there is no lesson further. What he wants to give us. And Krishna chooses his own devotees to teach the general populace. Prabhupada used to quote one Bengali proverb to teach this. He says, जी के मेरे बहू के सिखाए. Mother-in-law cannot chastise the daughter-in-law because daughter-in-law is just new in the home. So sometimes mother-in-law, she might chastise her own daughter or the maid servant. And through chastising her own daughter or maid servant who are very close to her, she is actually teaching the daughter-in-law. So in that way, Krishna, by apparently speaking, he did not protect the son of the Pandavas and he did not take care of his devotees. But he is actually trying to teach a lesson to all of us. They are actually Ananya Vishayatmanam, Pandavas. Therefore, how Krishna is going to take care of them, that is the subject matter. And another point is here to understand. Even though Krishna did not protect the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi, they did not complain to Krishna. This is another lesson for us, right? When something happens to us in our life, we always try to blame the Supreme Lord. Oh, I am chanting, I am devotee of Krishna. Why this thing happened to me? Why did Krishna do this to me? No. A devotee of the Lord then never complain to Krishna. Maravi Rakavi Joichata. Whether you save us or kill us. You make us suffer or you take care of us. Jatha tathava vidudhatulam patamat prananathastu sayavanatha. Mahaprabhu has taught this, but you can see in the life of the Pandavas, this is reflecting. So in that way, Krishna, sometimes he does not behave as it is expected. Why? This is a pastime. He wants to teach us a lesson. Yeah, the lesson is whatever Krishna does, it does good for us. And the Pandavas, they didn't find any fault with Krishna. I don't know whether it makes sense to you or not.
Yes, no, it does. I understand the principle of Leela, etc. But I'm just wondering why our acharyas haven't commented to explain. There's so much rus that they give us, and so much nectar. When it comes to these nuance parts of things where we have to understand it's Krishna's Leela and it is to teach us, the commentary on those parts seem not to give us much more depth of understanding. We understand, of course, that this is Krishna as devotees, but just wondering why the acharyas don't give us the depth of explanation in these areas.
I have not read all the comments. Maybe some Acharya might have given. We have to check it out.
Okay, I thank you for that. The second question I have is related but unrelated. I have we do a Gita reading with the Sangha that I have that are sort of fairly newcomers, and we're reading the full Gita with them. And one of the questions that was asked, which I wanted to think carefully about, and I'm asking you the question here in terms of how to respond, because I want to respond and give something that is both sastric as well as which is makes sense to them. The question is that if Krishna is the origin of everything, the source and origin of everything that exists, all qualities exist within Krishna, all qualities emanate from Krishna, good and bad. So therefore they're saying if Krishna is supposed to be all merciful and all good, how is it that how can we understand that would qualities such as murder and rape and meat eating and all of those also emanate from him? And if so, how do we analyze and understand that element of Krishna's quality?
You see, first of all, Krishna is not to be judged with these material qualities. As we know, whatever we see in this material, from the banyan tree analogy, that's a perverted reflection. This material world is a perverted reflection. There is love, this is lust. When you go to the spiritual world, there is also attraction between Krishna and his devotees. But that attraction is something different from the attraction we find in this world. And the attraction in this world, which is based on lusty desires, that glides down to many more consequences. So in the banyan tree analogy, it has been defined that this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual consciousness, spiritual world. So when it is perverted, then it will have opposite. Not that what is there, what is here, it should be there. No, Krishna is like here we say, Prakriti Param. Prakriti api Nyantaram. He is controller of the Prakriti. He is not to be found within Prakriti. He is transcendental to the Prakriti. That means the qualities that are experienced by the jivas who are under Prakriti cannot be seen in Krishna. He is beyond this. So, from this banyan tree analogy, and we being the part and parcel of Krishna is the Anu, and Krishna is Vibhu, and here also we understand that he is Prakriti Param, we can very easily understand that whatever we see in the material world is a perverted reflection, and the truth is lying in the spiritual world. Not that we try to see this material world, the qualities of the material world in the spiritual world. Then what is the difference between material world and spiritual world? Then there is no difference, right? If you say all the qualities here, there should be there. No, how? They love Krishna, we also love. That love is there, but here it is based on lusty desire. There that is based on pure love. That is why I try to explain through this banyan tree analogy, 15th chapter.
So I understand the difference between spiritual world and the material world, and that the material world is a perverted reflection, or things that we experience here are a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. But that's a slightly different answer. What I'm asking is, if everything emanates from Krishna, do such bad qualities also emanate from Krishna?
No, Krishna does not have any bad qualities. Bad qualities are seen in relation to this material world, because it is experienced in terms of our personal desires. There is no question of personal desire. But anything is happening, that is happening only just to satisfy Krishna. Here we are trying to satisfy our personal whims, sentiments. Desire is there, but the desire is different.
So where Krishna says he's in the Gita, origin of everything, he is the best amongst thieves, he is the best amongst the liars, he's the best amongst all.
No.
These qualities.
He is best among the thieves. What does it mean? When Krishna commits theft in Brajavasi's house, that is the enjoy.
No, I understand that. What I'm trying to map onto to give an answer which doesn't sound like we're just sidestepping it. I want to give an answer which really hits home beyond. Our understanding of Krishna is, of course, very different because we already have surrendered to him. We've surrendered to Krishna, no matter whether we need Shastra or not. I don't even need Shastra to tell me, because whatever Shastra may say, I've surrendered to him, I love him, full stop. It's unconditional. I don't need any evidence. But when you have somebody who is a newcomer, who is trying to get their head around the concept that Krishna is the source of everything, and the question effectively is rooted from, if Krishna is the source of everything,
source of material,
then the bad
creation.
qualities that we have
this.
Also come from him, no?
That
is a question that's been asked.
That is the point. Bhumi Rapa Nalabayu Khangmana Buddhireva Ahankarikim Bhinna Prakriyasha. Even 3 gunas, he is the source of everything. Okay? Originally it is coming from him. But when it is acting in the spiritual world, in the material world with material consciousness, the consequences are different because of our perverted desire. Try to understand this.
Yeah. Okay.
The root, Krishna is root, yes, he is root of this material world because it is coming from him. Right? So anything we see, if you see, the Krishna is material cause and he is also efficient cause because he desires to create. Why does he create? Because he is the living entities who are to separately enjoy from him. So in that way, he is the cause of everything. It will be very foolish and gross to say that all these material qualities has to be in Krishna. Then, okay, you see, as Krishna said, Daivesa Gunamai Mama Maya Dattya. Now, here you try to understand, he's saying, our acharyas are explaining, Daivi has a Gunamai. The Maya is consisting of 3 modes. Then why it is Daivi? Why it is said Daivi Maya? Because of its connection and movement with the divine will of the Supreme Lord. Try to understand this. Whatever is happening in this world, he is the kind of root cause, because by his will only it is happening. You don't try to explain literally the way they are asking, oh, this here means everything should be there. Yes, Krishna is the root of everything. How is the root of it? Everything is moving by his desire only. That's why he is root of everything. Without his sanction, nothing going to happen. Then he is to be blamed? No, he is not to be blamed. Because you want this. You have an independent desire. So in that way, it has to be explained from other angle. Not that Krishna has all these material things with him. No, he is transcendental personality. He doesn't have any material. But with his will only everything is happening. I mean, he permits. Without his permission, nothing going to take place in this world. And you want this. Now you are saying, oh, it should be there in Krishna. No, it should not be seen like that. I don't know whether it makes sense to you or not.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I just wanted to have a backup from somebody much more senior in terms of how to tackle
Krishna
this.
Krishna is the root cause of everything. Everything is happening under his will. Therefore, everything is coming from him. In that context also. As I said, Devyasa Gunamai. This is Gunamaya. Why it is Daivi? Because of his divine connection, movement by divine will of the Lord. That's it. Not that, no, it is said Daivi means it should be Daivi. It should be kind of, anybody comes in contact with this Maya, they should transcend. Why we are falling down? No, the explanation has been given because of the divine movement by the will of the Lord. That's why it is Daivi. Not that it is the Krishna is Lord of everything, because everything is moving under his direction. It's a perverted reflection. And you work according to independent desires. Material thing cannot belong to Krishna because he is transcendental personality. Asna viram shuddham apapa viddham. Upanishad says, apapa viddham. So why don't you see that part in Upanishad? Then how can you explain that? If these bad qualities are there in Krishna, then how can Upanishad describe his apapa viddham? Whatever he does, that is good. Anyway, try to explain.
Thank you. Sorry for taking up so much time. Apologies.
Sorry, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for a wonderful class again. Thank you. And Shailesh Govinda Prabhu, thank you for your questions. You always have interesting questions. Prabhuji, my question has to do with protection, Krishna giving protection to his devotees. It is said that, actually you said that, I think Srila Prabhupada said, and you repeated, that, and I see that in my own life, like my littlest kid, he's the one I gave the most attention to because he cannot help himself. So as devotees, the more we surrender to Krishna, that there is nobody else other than Krishna, the more Krishna protects us. So for us as devotees, what do we do? Like in the case of Draupadi, when Draupadi was being disrobed, she attempted to hold on to her sari so she doesn't get disrobed. And understand, simply because she did that, Krishna did not intervene until she threw up her two hands that, okay, Krishna, protect me. So as devotees, what do we do? Don't we have to do anything to protect ourselves? Do we just have to wait on Krishna for Krishna to do anything and everything for us? Second part to the question is, Krishna protected the embryo that Uttara had, which was Maharaj Parikshit. So the question was, did Krishna protect the embryo because of Uttara's devotion to Krishna and prayers to Krishna, or because it was his pure devotee, Parikshit? Hare Krishna.
So first question is, you said how much we should pay our attention to take care of our own thing. Okay? You see, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Karmanye Vadhikaraste. You have right to perform your duty. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Don't get attached to the results. Okay? You are not entitled. That means Krishna will do everything and you don't do anything. That is what Krishna is not saying. You do everything, ma manusmara juddhyacha. You remember me, at the same time, you fight. That is what you have to do in this connection. Not that I have to kind of, I'm surrender means I just stop doing my activity. No, you have to perform your duty while surrendering yourself to Krishna and doing everything in Krishna consciousness. And then he will protect you. He will take care of you. Okay? Then second question you said? Why
said,
he
did Krishna protect Uttara's embryo because of Uttara or because of Parikshit, which was the embryo? And if it was Uttara, if Krishna protected the embryo because of Uttara, could it have been the same case if the embryo was not a pure devotee of Krishna? If it was any gross demon, would Krishna have still protected the embryo because it was Uttara?
Okay, okay. So you are saying whether if the embryo was a demon, whether Krishna would protect or not, that you have to ask Krishna. Okay, I cannot tell. I cannot intervene in Krishna's desire.
Hare Krishna.
But try to understand this. When you are saying whether the baby was protected because of Uttara or is pure devotee, here it is clearly said, Pahi Pahi Mahajugin Deva Deva Devakpate Nanyatavayam Pasyat Tatrumiti Prasparam. The mother approaching the baby, protects her for the protection, and Krishna protector is clearly explained here. She came for protection. And another thing you see, this Parikshit, he is a worthy descendant of Pandavas. If you see who are the Pandavas, Ananya Vishayatmana. So definitely the one who is born in their family is a devotee of Lord Krishna. In that way also the baby deserves protection. Why he deserves protection? Because in future, this baby is going to become the cause for the appearance of Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's a lot to kind of appear in future. Therefore, Krishna has to protect him. So there are a lot of things associated with this. Not that you just see one thing. Parikshit is not an ordinary soul. He deserves protection at the same time. Mother also sought protection. In any way, this baby should be protected. Because there's a good service going to be, there's a good opportunity coming for future generations through this boy's service.
Hare
Murali
Krishna.
Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavatana. Prabhuji, I just wanted to understand this in the 22nd verse. In the purport, it is mentioned that Lord Krishna is visible in this few forms like Darumaya, Mrunmaya, Lauhamaya, Manimaya, and Chitramaya. Like we have deities in the house, like we worship the deities, we do all that prescribed sadhana, everything. So when we are away from the deities, I was instructed by one of the senior devotees that you can carry the picture of the deities and do your regular worship. But how do we develop that consciousness and absorb in that mood that even looking at the picture also, we can always meditate upon that pastime. Suppose now Damodar Lila is going on, Damodar Kartik Masa is going on. We will be reciting this Damodar Ashtakam and doing Damodar Arti. So how to observe, even looking at the picture. Now I could not get my deities. Once I go back to India, I'll collect my deities from one of the god sister. So how to absorb in that meditation, Prabhuji?
So there is a process given the deity worship that when you are, for example, offering flower, okay, then you actually meditate that you are offering flower at the lotus feet of your deity, even though it is a picture. Otherwise, if you are thinking you are just offering a flower to the picture, then you are not having the personal relationship with the deity form of the Lord. You know your deity. Okay? So
Yes,
you have the kind of form of the deity in your mind. So in meditation, while chanting, okay, Etani Puspani, I am sorry, whatever your deity's name, you can say,
yes.
Then Namaha. And then you are offering to the you imagine, you are actually thinking that this is actually I'm offering at his lotus feet. You can do that. There's nothing wrong, and it's not very difficult. If you do that, that is best worship actually. And then the picture which you are carrying with you and you are offering, for example, keeping the deity, picture before you and you do Abhishekam, for example.
Okay.
When you are doing Abhishekam, you actually meditate that you are actually pouring the Panchamrita to the Lord's body.
Oh.
You actually now I'm pouring it. I'm blessing the Lord. So in that way, that meditation actually take you to the personal worship of the Lord, and deity will accept that worship. We have seen the example in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu.
Yes.
You remember that the Brahmin
Yes.
who used to meditate?
Yeah. One Brahmin, he makes
Yes.
the kheer and all. He just wanted to see that it is served hot, then his finger will be burnt in fact.
Correct. His finger got burned. So this is meditation.
Okay, Prabhu.
It will
Thank you
accept.
so much, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha Titanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Grace Padmanabhan Prabhu ki jai.